Can you hear me now? Let's see if you can hear me now. Testing 1, 2. Yo, yo, yo. Yes. All right. You can hear me and you can hear the background music. Cool. It's always good to have you aboard, Christine. Don't know what I would do without you. I'd be a mess a little bit with all this technology and everything. So yes, I am back. I don't know how long I will be back, but I went to one of those float spas on Friday. I don't know if you guys know what a float spa is, but look it up. It's kind of like a tank type thing with some water that has so much magnesium in it that it allows your body to float. So you kind of float in a real low light environment. It's amazing. It's an amazing experience. It's kind of like a very lengthy meditation. You're kind of just, in this big flotation device, and you're by yourself. You're alone with your thoughts. So sitting in that tank for like 2.5 hours, excuse me, not sitting, but laying, just floating about. I came out refreshed with a lot of things on my mind and excited to come to you today. Just to get on YouTube. I had plans of getting on today at 2 o'clock, but all these damn technical difficulties and updates. It's been so long since I've been on that when Windows operating system needed to be updated, and the streaming software needed to be updated, and then my mic and my camera wasn't working, and it just didn't work out. But so with a whole lot of frustration and all, I was like, F this damn thing. But I just kept on being persistent, using that determination, and bam, here I am today talking to you. So I've been wanting to come on for a long time, but especially because of the passing of Mr. Fuller. Mr. Neely Fuller passed away in January of this year. And it's kind of I don't know how to put it. Maybe you could fill in the words for me. But if you're familiar with another counter-racist, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she too died in January. She died in January of 2016. And here we have Mr. Fuller passing in January of 2025. For those of you who didn't know, who may have heard of Mr. Fuller plenty of times, he's well known for saying this: if you do not understand white supremacy racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. That's what he's pretty known for. And this is, most people are familiar with his voice, but not with his appearance. So here you have a picture of Mr. Neely Fuller. When he passed in January, I received a lot of messages and phone calls from individuals who asked me if I was going to go online and say something about my experiences with Mr. Fuller. And so that was a difficult thing for me to do, because number one, I was still in the state of mind of being frustrated with all of this live streaming, podcasting, and crap. I it's not crap to any of you who have gotten much good use out of it. But on my end, I was at this point in my existence where I felt like it was a waste of my time. And so hearing that Mr. Fuller was, had passed away, kind of added to my frustrations, because some of my frustrations is, it has a lot to do with the whole system, all of the all I can say is all of the attacks that are coming from the most smartest, most powerful minds on the planet. And I even get more frustrated because I know that a lot of people who are being mistreated by use of deception, they're being victims of a fraud, right? A massive fraud that is tampering with our minds, and I can see it. I can see the tampering, and it just makes me feel it's a painful feeling. It just makes me feel frustrated when I see the tricks that are being played, the tricks that are manipulating us. Like, take for example, stop playing the victim. This is something I've been hearing for quite some time. And but before it was stop playing the victim, it was stop playing the race card. That's what we used to hear. In the 90s, it was stop playing the race card. And then somewhere along the way, it became stop playing the victim. And so we have huge numbers of victims denying that they're victims because they've been persuaded to believe that calling yourself a victim means you're weak, and that if you're weak, you can't do anything about the situation. And I liken it more like, when someone is overweight, right? If someone's overweight, or if a doctor makes a diagnosis of a disease that you might have, you got to accept that you're overweight or that you have this disease if you're going to take the necessary steps to remove the disease or remove the weight, the extra weight that you gotta remove. It reminds me of the time that I was working at Walmart, and this overweight black female was in the shoe department. I was walking, I didn't even work in the shoe department. I think I was working in housewares or something like that. But everybody is told, we're all taught, everybody was taught back then, you know, as a Walmart employee, that if a customer needs your assistance, no matter where they're at in the store, you got to provide that assistance. So she asked me if I would come over and help her with the shoes. Okay, she had a huge foot. Okay, and this is not, you know, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody that's overweight. You're overweight, you know, but there are some people who are overweight and would rather that others lie to them than, you know, get them to tell the truth. So anyway, she squeezed her foot into a very small shoe, and she asked me, she said, "Hey, what do you think? How does this look on my foot?" And I told her, I said, "Ma'am, that shoe is too big for your foot. You know, you can see the extra fat kind of around off her foot, that like squeezing, like oozing out of the shoe." And it looked like it was painful. Like it was very painful for her to wear it. But she was upset with me because I told her the truth. And I believe that's the way it works with using the word victim. Okay, so if you look at any time, let's take the Federal Bureau of Investigation, for example, right? Whenever someone commits fraud against a group of people, you know, what do they refer to the people who the fraud's been committed against? They refer to them as victims. That's what they refer to them as. And non-white people, we're a victim of a fraud, okay? If you think you're a part of a race, you are a victim of a huge fraud. A huge fraud. If you think you're a part of a race, you're a victim of a huge fraud. Now, what does this have to do with Mr. Neely Fuller, the master teacher, right? So many people have referred to Mr. Fuller as a master teacher. A master teacher of what? What is Mr. Fuller a master teacher of what? And what happens, people, they hear master teacher, and then it, you know, if I didn't know who Mr. Fuller was, if I had never had conversations with Mr. Fuller, then, and someone said to me, "Have you heard of the master teacher, Mr. Neely Fuller, and what he said?" And then they start quoting him, and I hear the quote, and because he was referred to as a master teacher, what am I going to do? When I start speaking to other people, I'm going to refer to him as a master teacher as well. But if you knew Mr. Fuller, if you had, and I'm not saying knew Mr. Fuller like you were close to him, but I mean if you knew Mr. Fuller like having conversations with Mr. Fuller on a regular basis, like I did, right? When I had conversations with Mr. Fuller, he made it clear. So the very first time I talked to Mr. Fuller, okay, was when I purchased this book, okay, and this is the second version. This is the second edition of the first United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, because it was huge. It was about the size of a, it was more like the size of a magazine, and you know, it was a big book, basically. It's a big book. And so when I got that book, it was in 2004 when I was a member of the National Association of Black Panthers. Everybody in there, when I that joined in 2004, all of the leadership, well, not all of them, but two members of the leadership. Like there was only 5 members of the leadership, right? And they made me, promoted me to, I was the Minister of Information, well, the Minister of Defense, right? / Intelligence. So basically, it's my job to work on the intelligence aspect of the NABP, and and then talk about security, teach security methods and things like that. But anyway, 2 members, when we first started talking, they kept talking to me about this code, the code this, the code that, Mr. Fuller this, Mr. Fuller that, right? And so I was like, okay, they keep talking about this code book. I wonder who this is. But now, in my mind, now mind you, I had been a member of the Nation of Islam for like 10 years by that time. I had gotten out of that, and when I left that, I went to the the new Black Panther Party. Okay, and while I was in there, there was some frustration with me being in the Nation. Okay, and that has to do with something that the code talks about, which is called four-wallism, which you can look through some of my very long videos and find some of what I've read from the code about four-wallism. But basically, I was frustrated with four-wallism. Okay, two of the main things of four-wallism. Four-wallism is a method for countering racism. It's a well-used method. Okay, and basically, it's having meetings within 4 walls, discussing the problems of racism, right? But with four-wallism, 2 of the main focuses of four-wallism, or the objectives of four-wallism, is memberships and funds, right? Collect members and funds. Like that's like the, pretty much the majority of the meetings that are held in those organizations is about finding people to join and funds, collecting money to fund the organization, right? And so four-wallism is a very well-used method for countering racism. You can find, I'm sure, up to 100 organizations here, actually worldwide, but there's plenty here that have started in the 1920s, 1930s, all the way that exist, that are here all the way up to they're here right now at this very moment, and we're still encountering the same problems of racism that we encountered before, the very same ones. Right? And anybody who has been, involved in this movement knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? And that's what my message is for. I'm not here for, I'm no longer want to, argue or debate with anyone that says that we're not victims, or anybody that says that white supremacy doesn't exist or racism doesn't exist or whatever. If my message doesn't resonate with you, so be it. Please move on, because this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and it's something that I can see how it has affected not only me, But my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, you know, and my great-great-grandparents, when I start looking at the records, but going very, very, very far back, all the way back to slavery. Some people say, well, brother, we've had history. We have a vast, great history that existed before slavery. Well, yeah, that's true. But slavery got in the way. And because slavery got in the way, now, well, I'm not even going to say slavery. White supremacy got in the way, because slavery is just this much of what's been going on. Because even after slavery ended, we still have more going on that we have to deal with, right? Just in your face, you got to deal with it. Suck it up. Say it doesn't exist. Act like it's not there. It reminds me of you ever seen the picture of Wile E. Coyote? He's got this big giant boulder coming up in the sky, and he sees it coming, and he opens up an umbrella and closes his eyes shut and waits for it's like he's pretending the boulder doesn't exist as it's getting ready to smash him, right? And this is what when you look at a historical level of the actual records that I'm speaking of, you will see that that's what's been happening. You got one, some of us, we discover what's happening, then all of a sudden the next generation pretends like it doesn't happen, and then all of a sudden you get another generation who sees what's going on, then another generation pretends like it doesn't happen, like it didn't happen, and we just keep going back and forth over and over again with all this pretending, never really addressing what really happened. So, speaking to Mr. Fuller, they gave me they kept talking about the code, and so I'm hearing all this code stuff, and in my mind I'm thinking, okay, this Neely Fuller guy is another personality, another cult of personality, right? Because in the 60s and the 70s, and if you read Chancellor Williams, in fact, let me just pull out Chancellor Williams. Chancellor Williams is another counter-racist who came out way before Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, who died, I believe he was 97 years old when he died this past January. But Chancellor Williams wrote this book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, okay? This book was written in 1976, okay? 1976. And I believe it's in the Now, I want you to know that this was a time when, just like now, the majority of Black people still believe in the fraud. They still believe that we are a part of a race. The majority of Black people still believe that, okay? I'm telling you that believing that you're a part of the race, is a part of racism, okay? It is a concept that comes from the racists, white supremacists, okay? I call them that, Mr. Fuller called them that, because at the time when they came up with the concept of race, they taught to the whole world, that is everywhere that was within the reach of the information that they presented, was that everybody on the planet was a part of a race. And they put white people at the top, saying white people were superior, and all the other races that the other four that they came up with, they made them inferior. At first, it was only two races. At first, it was just white people and black people, which they refer to as Negroids. Now, I'm not saying that this is the reality of the world. I'm saying this is the reality of the concept. This is the way that they presented the concept to all those who follow them. And these are very, like the smartest minds, the most powerful, smartest minds of their day, okay, who came up with this idea that said that, you know, they're white and everybody else that's not white is black. They say Caucasian and Negroid, okay? Then one of them came up, one of them, you know, started coming into contact with, they started coming into contact with people of what they refer to as Asia, like the Chinese and Japanese, and you know, I believe it was the two places that they first made contact with was Japan and China, when they encountered someone who had a difference in appearance than what they were used to seeing. So they added in Mongoloid. Okay, so they said these people look like they encounter what's the guy's name? Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan. These were groups, or these were leaders who led groups to do a lot of conquering across Asia and Europe, right? And so they had that appearance that you see, you know, where the I forgot what the term is, where the eye that refers to the shaping of the eyelids, right? But the Romans called Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan Mongols. They referred to them as the Mongols, right? So the scholars of that time, the racists at that time, who were still saying that white people were superior and that black people were inferior, Negroids were inferior, they added them to the group. So then you had three. You had, and they were saying that white people came from the Caucasus mountain range. So they referred to themselves as Caucasian. And then you had Mongoloid, and then you had Negroid, and they put them in that order. That was the order of treatment. The Caucasian would be treated the best, Mongoloid would be treated the second best, Negroid would be treated the third best, at the bottom. Okay. Then at some other point, when they spread across the planet, now Mr. Fuller said that every time the victims of white supremacy started waking up to what was going on, to confuse us, they started adding more races. Okay, but you got epicanthal folks. Thank you. So then they added some more to the group, right? So then all of a sudden you had 5, which was Caucasian, Mongoloid, and then they added Amerindian, Negroid, and let me be specific. If you type it in, if you look up the 3 racial classifications, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then if you look up the 5 racial classifications, you'll see what I'm talking about. But all of these classifications came from Caucasians, well, so-called Caucasians, because you know when you get further, you'll find that they can't even agree on who's Caucasian. So again, a fraud. We're talking about a fraud here, like a huge fraud. So the 5, okay, white, so American Indian. Hold on, they done added some stuff here. Let me let me look. Okay, and then they changed it to Caucasoid, but it's Caucasian, Mongoloid, Ethiopian. They said later termed Negroid, American Indian, and Malayan. Okay, but I don't know if they added these colors to remember them easily or whatever, but you had white, yellow, red, brown, and black, right? And all of us, every single one of us refers to each other with these terms. When we're just talking to one another, you know, not being formal, or excuse me, not being, yeah, is it formal? You know, when everybody's just talking amongst themselves or with each, you know, with each other, whatever, that's what we usually refer to ourselves as, right? Black, brown, you know, you say black and brown, you know, or you say red, you know, or yellow or white. Well, when is anybody ever going to question where these terms come from, right? How is it I'm brown, but I'm black? How much sense does that make? How is it that you red, but you ain't really red? You're brown too. You're a shade of brown, but you're red. Same thing with those of you who are yellow. And same, ain't nobody that's white got skin the color of this t-shirt. Nobody. So these are all a part of a fraud. You understand what I'm saying? This is all these, you know, ideas and concepts that we have. And then later on, to make us even more confused, they started turning all the places that they conquered and referred to as colonies. They started giving those places names. So now you have people that look at their nationality as if it's their race. Or you have people who have a religion and think their religion is a race. You know, I remember one time I could have had me some money, but I was so, at the time, I was so devastated by what happened. I didn't think about it until many years later, but I walked into a Bank of America. You know, I had an account with Bank of America. I went in there to grab a, you know, pull out some money, to withdraw some money. Okay. I was cashing my check, and the bank teller looked at my name on the check, said, "Oh, Khalif Muhammad, that's a Muslim name." I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "Well, you don't look Muslim." I was like, "What? I don't look Muslim? What do you mean? What does a Muslim look like?" She said, "Well, my mom's boyfriend is a Muslim and you don't look Muslim." That just blew my mind, right? So I guess, you know, that there's people who believe that that's what's going on. Now, mind you, you know, I haven't been a Muslim in a long time. You know, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. That's the bottom line truth. Sometimes I'm a Christian, sometimes I'm not. Okay? Sometimes I'm Lukumi, so all different types of Buddhists. There's plenty of different religions that I've dabbled in because I've been searching for something to help relieve me of this goddamn racism, white supremacy. That's what it's been all this time. I've been searching for something. And now today, they want you to believe that, oh, the liberals, it's the liberals is why you believe that. The liberals have convinced you that you're victims and that you racism is, or it was a communist plot. It's a communist trick. Okay, but yet and still, when I've done the research, I could see all the stuff that existed before the liberals ever got involved. You know, anyway. I thought that Mr. Fuller I can't even find the part that I was looking for in here, but I thought that Mr. Fuller was a cult of personality. So in Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, to paraphrase what was being said, okay, in the 60s and the 70s, you had all these different Black organizations popping up, and I say these organizations were popping up to help most of them were popping up to help Black people more politically aware of the decisions, the political decisions that are being made on a daily basis for what happens to them, right? For example, eminent domain. Eminent domain, you need to look up eminent domain. I believe it's spelled, hell, I don't know how to spell it, but let's try it. Maybe this AI will fill it out. Okay, eminent domain. The power of the government to take the private property for public use, even if the owner does not want to sell, but the government must provide just compensation to the owner. First time I heard of eminent domain when I first moved to Richmond, California. I was only 5 years old, 4 years old, 4 maybe 5 years old, and the section of Richmond that has a big freeway that runs through it right now called 580 didn't exist. People used to have to take cutting to get to the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, I believe it was. They used to have to take Cutting Boulevard to get there. That whole section, anytime you drive through 580, when you're on that section that's getting ready to hit Point Richmond and you're getting ready to cross that bridge, that whole area right there that was behind Easter Hill, right? If anybody's familiar with Richmond and you know where Easter Hill is, that whole area behind Easter Hill where you see the freeway at, those used to be homes for Black people. Black people used to live in those areas. Okay? And I remember going to a city council meeting with my dad, who was a conservative. Okay? He wasn't a liberal. Okay? We're talking about a time when both Black people who were liberals and Black people who were conservatives, both sides saw themselves as being victimized by racism, white supremacy. Both sides. They forced all those people to move out of there and gave them some money and told them that was just compensation. Those people were upset. I went, we had the city council meeting. I'm hearing people talking about it and everything. This is the first time I'm seeing an injustice happen. Okay? So learning about things like eminent domain and the politics behind making that type of decision happen, those are the things that a lot of these political parties were about. People question the civil rights movement. That's what the civil rights movement was about. It's about Black people learning what their rights were and exercising their rights to make changes. But each time you get a new generation, the next generation of Black people are somehow fraudulently convinced to believe that everything is okay now, that nothing is going on. This we shall overcome, and it's all good, and it's not. It's not. So, Mr. Fuller, they're talking about Mr. Fuller and everything, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be another cult personality dude, because in the 60s and the 70s, you had all these different organizations who had their own leaders, and each organization was against the other, right? Like, there's people to this day who still think that Ron Karenga you got to look him up, had something to do with the killing of some members of the Black Panther Party. But anyway, Ron Karenga's group called Us had all these people, and then the Black Panther Party had all these people, and you know, you had all these other names, you know, Stokely Carmichael and H. Rap Brown, and you know, you could just go on and on. George Jackson, but just many. When you had Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver and Bobby Seale, and when Eldridge Cleaver left the Black Panther Party, a whole bunch of people left with him because they were caught up in the personalities. They're looking at the person, and thinking it, okay, this person, I need to follow him because he's got some good ideas, and the other person over there, I don't need to follow him anymore. He you know, he's trash, you know, or the other, you know, vice versa. The other person is telling the other people, telling his people to tell those other people that they're trash, don't follow them. So you got all of this going on. Today you have something very similar. You have groups of people who refer to themselves as Hebrew Israelites, and each group within the Hebrew Israelites don't get along, okay? Because of personalities. The same thing with the Nation of Islam. You have members of the Nation of Islam. You got this kind of nation, Farrakhan's nation, Silas's nation, the Your Black Muslim Bakery. You had all these different groups, Wallace, you know, all these different people who follow one individual, a personality, instead of focusing on solving the problems. So when I first heard Neely Fuller's name, and these guys keep talking about, that's what I thought he was. I thought this is another personality that, you know, everybody's trying to follow. He's the new guy on the scene, you know. But then one of my elders, who you know, was really close to my my father, mentioned Neely Fuller to me, and he introduced me to someone who called himself an expert on Neely Fuller. You know, so I had a conversation with this guy, and he's the code, and he's talking about, you know, what the code is and everything. And so I decided to look up the code on the internet. And there was a website, it doesn't exist now, I don't think, but it was called thecode.net, okay? And another website, which still exists, which is called counter-racism.com. Is it counterracism.com? Counter-race, hold on. I gotta make sure I give y'all the facts, because I don't wanna deceive anybody. I don't wanna give out any misinformation. Counter-racism.com. Counter-racism.com. Okay, so I found that site, and anyway, I heard a somewhere I found a link. I think it was on that site. I found a link. It was an audio of Mr. Fuller speaking, and he had this real deep, powerful voice, but, you know, strong. You can hear the strength in it, right? Like, if you listen to some of Mr. Fuller's videos, you know what I'm talking about. You can put Neely Fuller in YouTube, Neely Fuller. Type that in on YouTube, and the videos will come up. There's some really good ones that have animation attached to them, so that, you know, it'll really help you get through what he's saying. Because, you know, unfortunately today, a lot of people have a short attention span, right? You know, we get hit with so much information every day. Like thousands of information, and it's in such a little short clip these days that a lot of us, we don't want to listen to nobody speak for a long time, you know. So, you know, but Mr. Fuller has an animation attached to Mr. Fuller's voice. I think it's hiphopcartoons.com or Hip Hop Cartoons. The channel is called Hip Hop Cartoons on YouTube, and you should be able to see those. But so once I heard what Mr. Fuller said, I thought, okay, this is interesting what he's talking about. I'd like to know more, you know. So I decided to call my good associate at one of the most famous bookstores in the world, right? Like, so many actors go there to buy their books. You know, a lot of there's politicians that have gone there, but a lot of you know, so-called prominent Black people have gone there to speak. Even I think Mr. Fuller said he even spoke there once. But it's Marcus Bookstore in Oakland, and you know, the person that answered the phone at the time, who's, you know, been in Marcus Bookstore for a very long time, everybody pretty much knows her, all the prominent people, Blanche, right? So I called Blanche. I said, hey, Blanche, I said, do you have the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept? That's this book right here. Again, like I said, it was big. It was bigger. And she's like, yeah, I do. We have it. I said, well, I want to come out there and get a copy. She said, okay, hold on 1 second. She said, okay, hold on. If you get that, you got to make sure you get the ISIS papers too. Now here's the ISIS papers, right? By Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, another one who's been referred to as a master teacher, right? You got all these people calling themselves, referring to Mr. Fuller and Dr. Frances Cress Welsing as master teachers, but the people that's calling them master teachers don't want to be a master student. They don't want to go through the book and learn the information that's in there that will help you solve some of your problems. They just want to like today is the best thing you think you could do is just watch the 30-second clip and share it. You know, most of you don't even do that. Just watch the clip and, you know, get on, you know, but you might see somebody, you have a conversation. Oh, have you heard of the master teacher, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and what she said? And then you take what she said and apply it to some old mess you done made up, and then, you know, and then the same thing with Mr. Fuller, right? So many people have taken this term right here. I'm gonna show it to you. So many people, I've seen this on so many websites, and people posting it on their page. If you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. They use that to support whatever it is they trying to present. All the while they never read the code book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, to find out exactly how to unconfuse themselves. You know, I keep talking. I'm looking at the screen over here when I guess I should be actually looking at you right here. You know, but anyway, so she said get Dr. Frances Cress Welsing book. And in my mind, I'm like, as I heard of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and at the time, I thought she was a master teacher. I was like, yeah, the master teacher, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. Thinking only because her book, when she came out with this, it was in 1991, okay? And before she had this book, they were having these conferences around the country called the Melanin Conference, right? These again are conferences developed to try to help Black people ease their suffering from racism, white supremacy. Try to help them ease their suffering. It's basically all it is. The Melanin Conference. The first time I heard about her was from that. My dad went to the Melanin Conference and he came back, you know, speaking highly of her, which was sometime in the 80s. Okay, but she came out with this in 1991, and you know, she was on. Many of you, your younger generations probably don't even know of Phil Donahue, but she was on the Donahue Show. You know, if you look up Phil Donahue, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, you'll see, and she's a real doctor. She was a real medical doctor. She was a psychiatrist, okay, who basically said that she noticed that all of her patients, right, because she was graduated from Howard University and was working at Howard Hospital. It's a hospital. Howard University has a medical center, and she was working there as a psychiatrist and sitting right there in Washington, D.C., where there's a whole lot of Black people. The majority of her, I'm thinking all, but I'm just gonna, you know, because I don't know for sure. I know the majority of her patients were Black. And she said that every time they're talking about mental issues. They're helping, she's there listening to them talk about their mental issues, and all their mental issues, while she's sitting there listening to them, each time they talk about their issues and the stress that's being caused, racism comes up. Racism comes up. So she was like, okay, if I keep hearing all this, maybe I need to look into this racism thing. So that's when she got into the book. She came up with all these theories that she ended up putting in this book. And you know what happened to her? When she came up with her theory, the Crest theory of color confrontation, they removed her. They removed her from her position. Why? Why would that happen? A medical doctor, a psychiatrist, making a diagnosis to help victims of racism solve their problems. But anyway, okay, I didn't know at the time. I'm just thinking, you know, Blanche is trying to sell me another book. And I'm like, hey, you know, that is a book I wanted, so let me get it. Okay, but then when I get her book, and this is how I know a lot of people haven't really read her book, because on this page right here, the dedication page, she says, this work is dedicated to the victims. This is a Black psychiatrist referring to Black people as what? Victims. She ain't telling Black people to play the victim. She's saying this work is dedicated to the victims of the global system of white supremacy, racism, all non-white people worldwide, past and present, who have resolved to end this great travesty and bring justice, then peace to the planet Earth. Justice doesn't mean revenge. Justice is balance between people, all people on the planet. Whatever there is, it should be equally distributed. All resources on the planet, there's enough food on the planet. The racist white supremacists want you to believe in scarcity. They want you to think that there's not enough food on the planet for everybody. They want you to think there's not enough resources on the planet for everybody. Everybody on the planet has to be poor, and there has to be somebody on top with all the wealth. Right now, tell me, right now, just if you can Google this, look up the Mars Rover. It's been on Mars for 12 years right now. The Mars Rover been on Mars. It's still rolling around on Mars right now for 12 years. Searching around for what? Life on Mars? Why do they want to find life on Mars? So they can fuck them up too? Oh. Sorry. Why would they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to send something all the way up to Mars to study what's going on there? And we got problems. We got people still here living in the streets. We got people still here trying to figure out where they're gonna get, how they're gonna get some food on the table tonight. How does that make sense? Make it make sense. That is injustice. So justice would mean that nobody's starving. Nobody. Come on, man. We got a big, vast, the majority of the planet is 70% water. You trying to tell me there ain't enough fish in the ocean to feed everybody? So, then she puts Mr. Fuller's quote. If you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Neely Fuller Jr. He said that in 1971. 1971. How old was I in 1971? My brain is, I can't even do the math in my head. I gotta bring up the calculator here real quick. Okay, but my computer's messing around with me. Oh. Let me do that. So we do 1971 minus 1968. What's going on, Jola? 3. I was 3 years old when Mr. Fuller said, if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. 1971. Now, Mr. Fuller told me that when he met Dr. Welsing, he wrote the code. He had a lot of information, a bunch of notes that he had in a briefcase. So they weren't put in a book form yet. Dr. Welsing and another doctor whose name I can't remember, another medical doctor, helped Mr. Fuller get all his notes and information put together so that they could publish this book, okay? But he had shared his information with Dr. Welsing, and that helped inspire her to make this book. So Dr. Welsing took what she learned in psychiatry and blended it with concepts, with the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept to come up with this book. Blew my mind because when I seen her talking on Donahue and everybody was pushing her book at the time in the 90s and everything, I was like, ooh, Dr. Welsing, but I never put the connection between her and Mr. Fuller. Now, the next paragraph that I'm about to read is super duper important. It says, no persons who classify themselves as white living in the area of the world referred to as the United States of America, or for that matter, in any other area of the world, should presume to tell any black person or any other non-white person what racism is or is not until they have read completely Kenneth O'Reilly's Racial Matters, the FBI secret file on Black America from 1960 to 1972. I'll be right back again. Many of you today, right now, believe that Martin Luther King was a cheater. Many of you believe that Martin Luther King cheated on his wife. That was an FBI fabrication, another fraud. And you'll find that out in this book right here called Racial Matters by Kenneth O'Reilly. Kenneth O'Reilly. Not a black person. I don't know if he's a white person, but I don't know. I don't know too many black people with the last name O'Reilly. I'm just saying, like, the Irish didn't have a whole lot of slaves. I don't even think the Irish had any slaves at all. In fact, the Irish were slaves themselves. So, anyway, racial matters. So, I just want to set the tone here because I'm bringing this back to Mr. Fuller. The next line says, no black person living in the area of the world referred to as the United States of America should discourse on racism or deny the conspiratorial dimensions of the local and global system of racism until he or she has read Racial Matters complete. Again, because this right here will show you one of the things that I see right now is COINTELPRO tactics going on all over again. You got a bunch of you calling yourselves FBA, right? So, further, she says all non-white people, black, brown, red, and yellow, should read and discuss the implications of the book Racial Matters, the implications for themselves as individuals, and the implications for their collective should be discussed in depth. Then all non-white people should view the docudrama videotape, which you can find on YouTube right now, called the Welsing Conference. The Welsing Conference. That's WANNSEE Conference. She said, which can be rented, of course, in 1991. That's what we did. We rented videos, right? To observe exactly how a white supremacy government calmly sits and plans the destruction of a people that it classifies as non-white. The Welsing Conference took place in Germany in 1941 to finalize the plans for the destruction of 11 million Semites, non-whites of the Jewish religion. The German white supremacists succeeded in killing 6 million. Now, I know there's some debate. There's people debating. Some people say it ain't 6 million. Some people say it's 600,000. People say, all I know is you'll see the evidence of the Welsing Conference. Just look it up. After the above steps have been taken, all non-white people worldwide should read Neely Fuller's work, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, white supremacy. Okay? So now, all right, so now I got the books. And when I picked this up, I'm so into what I'm reading, I can't put it down. The whole day. Do you understand me? The whole day I read this book. I couldn't put it down. It took me about 8 to 10 hours to read this whole book. And I was so inspired and motivated by reading it that I went and read it again. I've read this book like so many times that a lot of it I know by heart. And Mr. Fuller, okay, so let me tell you this. Let me tell you this part, because this is the crucial part that a lot of people didn't realize. And this is how I started talking with Mr. Fuller. Because on the oh, and you see, check out Professor Griff. Professor Griff, I can't remember the name of his channel right now, but if you look up Professor Griff's channel on YouTube, he did a dedication to Mr. Fuller, and I went on there and said a few things about Mr. Fuller. But on page B, on the inside, right down here at the bottom, whoops, I put my finger on it. Right there at the bottom. Oh, I keep looking at the wrong, I keep forgetting about that, sorry. But right down here at the bottom, you can't really see it, but in them tiny words right there, it's too much light on the book, but it gives Mr. Fuller's address and phone number. Okay, and see, I whenever I get a hold of a book, like years ago in the 1990s when Behold the Pale Horse came out, that's another book you should check out. But it doesn't really, that book doesn't tell you anything about racism, but it's about conspiracies, right? Like today, the status quo wants you to think that conspiracies don't happen. They want you to think that a conspiracy, if somebody's talking to you about a conspiracy, then that means they're crazy. Okay, but look, if me and you, let's say me and you, let's say me and you are buddies, and we meet a guy that let's say me and you are buddies and we're fraudsters. Okay, we profit from deception, right? We want to profit from deception, and we're always looking for a victim to commit a fraud against, right? So me and you, we find us a victim and we conspire to take advantage of the victim. We conspire, we look for a way to deceive the victim, make the victim think we're buddies, and while we're buddies, maybe while I'm talking to him, my associate is digging in his back pocket and pulling out credit cards, or what do they do now? I guess they got the little things, the devices. I don't know how to, whatever way we got this technologically advanced way to take their credit card numbers, and this person thinks we're buddies, and now we're running the numbers on the we ripping them off. We're taking all the money, as much money as we can from him, while we smile in his face. We conspired. We made a conspiracy. We had a conspiracy against that person. That's all a conspiracy is. So most of the time when we're talking about conspiracies, they're not talking about, most people call them government conspiracies, but because we're talking about governments in a system of injustice, we should refer to those governments as incorrect governments. So we're talking about incorrect government conspiracies, because what? A government that promotes justice, a government that establishes true justice, not revenge, but making sure, guaranteeing that the person who needs the most help gets the most constructive help they need. We're talking about, that's what we mean by justice. So since you have all of these conspiracies that come from an incorrect government, we're in a system of injustice, and the people out there who discover the conspiracies, they want you to know about it. They want you to know about it so you can try to figure out a way to stop it. Because there used to be a time when numbers counted, right? And so the code is about establishing numbers. It's about trying to get an effective number of people who will counter injustice with justice. That's the bottom line. That's what it's all about. So I saw this phone number and I was like, I'm so passionate about this book. I need to call this number so I can get some of these books and sell them. So I call a number. Hello? You know that, excuse me, did he say hello? I think he did say hello. He said hello. And I said, yes, can I speak to Mr. Fuller? And he said, speaking. And I was like, wait, you're Dr. Neely Fuller? He said, no, I'm not a doctor. Don't call me a doctor. He said, don't refer to me as a doctor because a doctor is someone who knows how to cure. A doctor is someone who, has an answer to a problem, has a solution to a problem. I'm not a doctor, I'm a victim. And he said he always tries to discourage people from calling him a doctor. And he said he doesn't know where it came from when people call him Dr. Neely Fuller, because that's not something he's ever promoted. This is why I know calling him a master teacher is totally incorrect. It's a total contradiction to the code. It's a total contradiction to what Mr. Fuller stood for and what he wanted you to learn, what he wanted you to know. So on Griff's podcast, at the end of the podcast, he asked everybody, I think he said something like, what do you think is a good title of, sum up Mr. Fuller in just a few words. And I said, victim of racism. Everybody laughed. But it's what he says on the back of his book. Look, about the writer, author of this book. I, Neely Fuller Jr., the writer, author of this book, have been, like millions of others, a longtime victim of and servant to racism, white supremacy in all areas of activity. My experiences, observations, and/or studies have led me to believe the following. Well, Joe, the reason why I think they laughed was because they're so used to referring to him as a master teacher, and they're so used to believing that victim is pretending or is weak, that it sounded like it was a contradiction. I suspect that's why. I kind of laughed too. When they laughed, I kind of laughed, and then later on, after I got off, I thought about it. And I told somebody else, and they said, why'd they laugh? That was the same thing. But anyway, he says, again, my experiences, observations, and/or studies have led me to believe the following. Racism has done more to promote non-justice than any other social material system known to have been produced or supported by the people of the known universe. No major problem that exists between the people of the known universe can be eliminated until racism is eliminated. The fear, frustration, malice, and confusion that is caused by racism retards or prevents all constructive activity between the people of the known universe. The only form of functional racism that exists among the people of the known universe is white supremacy. The people who have the ability to eliminate racism do not have the will to do so. And the people who have the will to do so do not have the ability. Regardless of all that has been said or done, the quality of the relationships between white people and black people is and has been a total disaster. It don't matter how many cookouts you invite them to, it's not going to eliminate racism, white supremacy. Or how many white people marry black people, or how many black people marry white people, how many black people and non-white people and white people have sexual intercourse and produce children together. The problem has still been here. And anybody who just looks, all you have to do is just look at the records. You can go to the National Archives and look at the records yourself. All you got to do is have an interest. All you have to do is have an interest in looking at the records that have been produced, the congressional records that have been produced, ever since day one of the Constitution. Do you know that when they wrote the Constitution, they had to go and debate? The so-called founding fathers of the Constitution had to go and debate, because just the first line, we believe that it is self-evident that all men are created equal. Right there, they had to stop. Hold on, wait a minute. Whoa. Hold on. Whoa. What you mean all men? We can't say all men are created equal, because I got Tyrone working in my cotton field right now. Tyrone is a part of the subrace. There's no way Tyrone is equal to me. So the founding fathers, we're talking about Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington, John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin, and many others had to go behind closed doors and debate whether they should change that or not. And when they came out, what they come up with? Oh, the black man is equal to 3/4 of a man. So that meant what? The white man is a full 100 man. Now come on, do the math, right? You know your basic math, right? What was it? 3/4 is a fraction, right? So the black man in the Constitution, it says he's a fraction of a man. Now, you gonna tell me I'm teaching racism when the founding fathers put that in the Constitution? What were they calling it? What was it when they did it? And all I'm doing is telling you what they said. They never corrected that. They never made an amendment that said the black man is a full man. They never corrected that. But when Dredd Scott, a runaway slave, well, who wasn't really a runaway slave, they classified him a runaway, but the slave owner, died in a state where some black people in that state could be classified as free. Dredd Scott tried to use the laws of that state to say that he was free. But the slave owner's son came to get Dredd Scott. Slave owner's son lived in another state, said, hey, just because my dad died, that doesn't mean you're free. I inherited you and your wife and your children. All of y'all belong to me. Dredd Scott took him to court. And the state court Said, oh, Dredd Scott's got a point. He's free. But the slave owner's son, that wasn't enough for him. He said, oh no. Mm-mm. I'm not satisfied with what these white people here said. Well, excuse me, he's not gonna recognize them as white in this situation. He's just gonna recognize them as people, his equal. He's not satisfied with what his equal, the judge and the jury, what they ruled. So what did he do? He fought the case, and it traveled all the way up to the highest court in the land, right? The Supreme Court, which I guess isn't so high these days because, you know, they gave a order to the president. He said, the hell with y'all and what y'all talking about. That's not my fight. I'm not, again, I'm not for what he said. I'm not against what he said. I'm just pointing out a fact, an actual fact. And that's what I'm talking about here. When this case made it to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court ruled in the favor of the slave owner. Well, what did they say? They said, you know what? Dredd Scott is black, and black people don't have any rights in this country. They don't have no rights. The Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, those are only for white people. That's not for black people. That's what the Supreme Court rules. So what happened to Dredd Scott and his family? They went back to slavery. So, speed it up to, 1865. You can look at the congressional records, the whole debate that they had going on about, whether they should keep slaves or whether they shouldn't have slaves and other. It was never about black people being equal. The main issue was there was a whole lot of poor white people here in the United States coming here from other countries, immigrants, who were looking for work but couldn't find work because the slaves was doing everything. You had slave owners contracting their slaves out to other people and collecting the money. So if I'm, if I'm an ancestor of Kenneth O'Reilly, and I come here because somebody frauded me, somebody lied to me and frauded me and told me, come to America, live the American dream. And I get here and I'm like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. I can't find any work. Every time I go to the farm over here and I'm looking to, because when I was in Ireland, I tilled the land. I know how to farm. And I come to the farmer and the farmer says, sorry, I don't need you. And then I go to the store and I want to work in the man's store, and the man's store, he got slaves in there working. I don't need you. Can't find no work. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna complain to my congressman. Hey, what's going on? I'm supposed to be getting the American dream here, and all these slaves, they taking up all the work. What's going on? That's what the debate is about. The debate between Congress at the time when they got to the point of where they wanted to end slavery. That's what the debate's about. It's mainly about one work, factories. Because France and England and I think Portugal too, they discovered machines. Somebody invented the steam engine, and they started noticing that a steam engine can do more work than a slave could do. And they need somebody to operate them steam engines. They didn't want slaves to do it. Then, in other cases, they hired the so-called Irish person to, you know, be the overseer. Anyway, to try to resolve the matter, they added the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. So the 13th Amendment made black people citizens, which meant that we're supposed to be able to use those first 10 amendments to solve our problems. And Mr. Fuller was all for the United States Constitution. He said it is a codified document. You can use any codified document to solve your problems. That's what codified documents are for. Anyway, so, you know, having a conversation with Mr. Fuller, I buy the books, you know, somewhere around here, I saved all the receipts, you know, with his handwriting, because I thought his handwriting was really, really nice. He printed, you know, all caps, just like, you know, that's what they, it's kind of a thing that I think he probably learned from the military, you know. So anyway, having conversations with him, he said that he was in Korea when the civil rights movement, so-called civil rights movement, was going on. And that's when he told me, we had a conversation about the word civil. And I remember him saying, he tied it into the Civil War, and he said, when you really think about a civil war, what's civil about war? Isn't that a contradiction? Because he was trying to get me to pay close attention to the words that are being used, because this is how the fraudsters continuously manipulate us, is by giving us words to use, right? So I think it was 1958 or 59, something like that, when he was in the Air Force working at a radar station in Korea, when he heard the terms segregation and integration. And he never heard those terms before, he said. So he wanted to look them up, and he couldn't. I think at the time he said there was no solid definition for what they meant. And that's what caused him to start looking into other things. So then he talked about discrimination. And when he mentioned discrimination, he talked about how he told me, he said discrimination, when you look up the definition of discrimination, everybody discriminates. He said, you discriminate when you decide, if I decide to, if I'm going to work and I decide to catch Uber. Now, he didn't use this term, because Uber didn't exist at the time, but I'm giving you my version of his example to kind of update it for you. If I decide to catch Uber to work instead of driving to work myself, I'm discriminating. Discriminating is just about making choices. So someone who practices racism, if they choose to mistreat you and not mistreat someone else, yes, that's discrimination, but they're also practicing racism. So discrimination and racism don't mean the same thing. It's more like discrimination can be a tool used by someone who's practicing racism. But, I was so amazed. I mean, I'd be on the phone for hours talking to Mr. Fuller, and I'm just listening to him talk as he's giving me different examples. And he was the one that put it in my head to start an Institute for Counter-Racism Science. He was the one that told me that it was okay if I got people together and we studied the code. Said, in fact, that was something that he would encourage to be done, right? But now, the cold thing about it is, once I read the United Independent Compensatory Code, because I read this before I called Mr. Fuller. I saw his number on the inside, but once I read it and I saw what United Independent meant, I was sold on the idea, because I understood that Mr. Fuller was not trying to start a organization of followers where he was the leader, where he was the master teacher. You understand what I'm saying? This is something that we, collectively as non-white people keep doing. We keep looking for some savior or great leader or somebody to follow, to a Pied Piper who can lead us right on off a cliff, telling us all these, throwing all these, hitting us with all these what's the word? Metaphysical concepts that wow you and fascinate you with, what is it today? Flat Earth and, just all kinds of things that they want to throw at you to have you mesmerized and wowing who they are and being so thankful that you met the great master teacher. But United Independent means you're your own leader. You're your own organization. You don't follow nobody. You're your own leader. You're your own follower. You follow when you follow yourself when you want to follow yourself. You lead yourself when you want to lead yourself. That's it. And everything in it is suggestions. But the part that will really help you, I think, is the introductory section, right? Everything in here is nothing but suggestions, but everything in here is nothing but suggestions. But when you get to the introductory, the special introductory section, like this one, okay? It says there are 3 basic types of people in the known universe. 3. White people, non-white people, and white supremacist races. So what's that saying? That's saying that some white people are not racist. Some white people are not racist white supremacists. From a logical standpoint, from a logical point of view, some white people are not racist white supremacists. This is crucial. Now, of course, it's the code. So, we have a thing that prevents, it's set up, another codified term that's set up to prevent non-white people from beating each other up with the code, called Victims Guaranteed Qualifications. But some of us have to be able to set our emotions aside to really look at logic, right? Every white person that you call a racist, you got to prove that they're a racist. And when I first heard that information, I thought it was so easy to prove. Man, I went out debating, arguing with all the white people I could argue with about racism, mainly on the internet, right? Because one thing I learned early from Mr. Fuller is you don't discuss, because I asked him one day, because I was doing all this arguing on the internet, when I first, I was inspired. You go back to my YouTube channel, you'll see that I was one of the very first YouTubers. Okay, I was on YouTube before all of the stuff you got right now, the ads, the partnership, the money that they pay you for your ads, and the super chats and all that stuff. I was on YouTube before all of that existed. When I first got on YouTube, they were still running YouTube out of a garage, out of a house, a small house, and I think it was Palo Alto. Okay, and they didn't have that many employees, probably 10 at the most. I'm not sure, but it was a small group when I first became a part of YouTube. So back then, you could get on YouTube and talk about anything, and there was a lot of admitted racists on there. I mean, there were Nazis, there were skinheads, there was white nationalists. Now, a lot of the white nationalists that I had conversations with refused to say they were racist. They said they just want a place that's for the betterment of a place, a government, established for the survival and protection of white people. So, I don't see that as being racist. Okay, from my observation, protecting white people is not an injustice. Now, if you just if everybody is under one government, like the white nationalists was talking about having a white nationalist government somewhere, like these guys were talking about having. At the time, they were talking about having. I think it was Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and I'm looking at the states on the wall here, Wyoming and Montana. They were talking about saying that all the white people who want to be with white people should move to those states, and in those states they would work to pass laws to make sure, because like if you look at the they have a mantra thing, it's called the 14 words, right? Which basically is, the mantra says something about wanting to secure the existence of white people, right? This is why 2020 it was news all over the place. The population of white people had declined, and you got all these decisions that are being made in the government right now to help increase that. If you know what to look for, you'll see it. But if a white person believes that they gotta mistreat non-white people so that white people could be protected, I'm not with that. That's injustice. Okay? But if white people are working to protect white people and have more white children, so be it. But the ones that want to do that, let them do that. The ones that don't, they won't. I don't have, to me, but calling it racist to me is something different, So, and Mr. Fuller said something along the same lines. Okay, he didn't have a problem with white nationalists having a place where, they want to protect themselves. Everybody on this planet has a right to protect themselves. Okay, but imagine if it was a planet of justice, right? If everybody had it in their mind, we're not gonna harm nobody except in self-defense. Nobody's gonna harm anybody, right? Because the only way somebody's gonna make a move is to defend themselves against an attack, right? And if nobody attacks each other, there won't be any there won't be any necessary, self-defense won't be necessary, right? Anyway, I appreciated the conversations that I had with Mr. Fuller, and buying the books was working for me because I'm on YouTube. I got my, I'm reading from the code. People that are interested in what I'm reading put stuff in the comments, right? But there was a lot of white people who were against what I was reading, and they put in the comments. So like, okay, I'm reading. There's 3 basic types of people in the known universe: white people, non-white people, and white supremacists, racists. Then somebody puts in the comments, what about black supremacists? Why aren't you saying something about black supremacists? If you don't agree, now mind you, hold on, before I get to that, if you don't agree, because at the time, me being so eager to try to use the code to beat somebody up with, oh, I got one now. Why aren't there black supremacists? How come you ain't talking about black supremacy? Type it back in the comments. Then somebody else says, you're practicing reverse racism. What? There's no such thing. I'm in there debating that. And then somebody else says, what's the other term that they used to say? Oh, you're playing the race card. Then one guy sent me a video. Why is there a BET? How come there's no white entertainment channel? Why is there why are there black colleges? How come there's no white colleges? I'm like, come on, man. What are you talking about? What's Harvard? What's Yale? What's UC Berkeley? I can't go to no black college because I'm white. You a damn lie. Black colleges have white students all over the place. They're happy to have. Well, the United Negro College Fund is just for black people. No, it's not. I called the United Negro College Fund to find out if the college fund was, they said the fund is not for the student, it's for the college. So if you apply to a black college, a Negro college, whether you're white or black, if they accept you and you meet the income standards, they'll pay for you to go. So I'm like, what is all of this madness that's going on? Why are all of these people, white people, jumping all down on me, on my throat, all over me? Because they're saying to me, they're not racist white supremacists, but they're mad at me or upset with me because I'm speaking out against racism, white supremacy. It made no sense to me. But I'm constantly, yeah, I'm in the fight. I'm arguing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the debate. So then, all of a sudden, somebody on YouTube started this thing called White Talk, YouTube Against Racism campaign. You can't even, you might be able to find some pieces of it, but the cold part about it is YouTube just erased a whole bunch of stuff that was out there. And the YouTube Against Racism campaign was a great thing because all of a sudden you had all these people, white people and non-white people, who said they were against racism, who started this loose group called YTARC, YouTube Against Racism campaign. And somebody decided to have the white nationalists came up with the term. They came up with this concept, this event. They called it the Great Race Debate. And so you had the white talk people. They selected a guy from China. No, he's Chinese, but he's born in the UK. He speaks, you know, when you hear him talk, blew my mind because, you know, I'm so used to what I see here right here in the Bay Area. I've met plenty of Chinese people here in the Bay Area who speak with a Bay Area accent just like I do. They don't have they don't have a Chinese accent. They grew up right here in the Bay just like I did and speak just like me. But I had never seen a Chinese person with a British accent. So it was very interesting to me. Just like when I seen black people with British accents. But anyway, I think his name was Kwai Ching. So that the white talk people selected Kwai Chi, not Ching. His name was Kwai Chi. So they selected Kwai Chi to represent white talk, and he's in this debate. He's going at it with Nazis and Ku Kluxers and the one dude who was just a white nationalist. He wasn't a Ku Klux Klan. He wasn't with the skinheads, and he wasn't with the Nazis. But they all interacted with each other, and they selected him to be their representative in this debate. RV Wolfpack, that's what they called him. They called him RV Wolfpack. Now, these are all people that had channels on YouTube, okay? Back in a time when, to me, true freedom of speech was okay. There wasn't nobody getting canceled because they said something that somebody else didn't like, which to me is very ridiculous. How do you know how somebody else thinks if you don't give them a chance to say what's on their mind? And now you got a whole bunch of people walking around with ideas and things in their head, meeting behind your back with other people who got ideas in their head, and now they're conspiring to probably commit some type of injustice because they can't speak their minds because they're afraid they're going to lose their job or something. It's so many counter racists right now. I tell you so many. I'm going to say the majority of the people that I've seen. Let me say I haven't seen practice counter racism. You've never seen them, never seen their face. You just hear their voice, but you never see what they look like. And mind you, when I first got on YouTube, I felt the fear. When I first got on YouTube, if you go back and you see my old YouTube videos, what I got on? I got on a bandana and these glasses, right? Here, see my face? Now I got these black rings around my eyes. You know, they'll distract me while I'm talking to you. So, you know, I'll be thinking that you looking at the black rings around my eyes instead of me. And plus I got a bright light in front of me. So it's better that I wear the dark glasses. But there, you seen my face, right? And somewhere on YouTube, you'll find the video where I revealed myself because it was a big thing. Now mind you, the skinheads, the Nazis, and the white nationalists who were speaking, they all showed their faces. All of them, right? So we're having this so-called debate, and to me, the debate was constructive for our audiences because they were most of the time they were acting off stereotypes, and I was proving those stereotypes incorrect. Okay, number one, because I was on YouTube, that meant I didn't have a job. That was a damn lie. I owned a company. I was working for myself, you know, and I worked. So that was a lie. Somebody was saying that I came from a single parent home. That was a damn lie. They said I was a liberal. That was a damn lie. I'm not I'm a liberal and a conservative. I have liberal, some things I'm liberal about and some things I'm conservative about. So you know, I got both ideas, both conservative and liberal ideas running around in my head. But for some reason, for most people, it's impossible for them to conceive that you're in the middle. To them, you have to take a side. And we were knocking that out. I'm busting all of it up. All of these misconceptions and ideas and concepts that people stick to black people, like, you know, like boom, like which to me, I don't think people understand what it's like. People who are not black don't understand what it's like to go to work, or, you know, go somewhere. So, I mean, some people there may be some people out there who are not, who you know, but when there's a whole bunch of ideas that people have attached to you, and you're not none of those ideas, and you end up wasting a whole lot of time and energy, constantly always trying to prove them wrong, to prove to them, no, that's not me. No, I don't eat fried chicken every night. Yeah, I like fried chicken. No, I don't eat watermelon all the time. I like watermelon. Yeah. No, I don't steal. No, I don't have a criminal record. You know, when I used to get pulled over and the officer says, "Are you on probation or are you on parole?" What the hell kind of question is that? Are you on probation or are you on parole? Neither. All the time I got pulled over and the officer asked me for my license, I had that. He asked me for my registration, I had that. He asked me for insurance, I had that. He said, "Oh, you got everything, don't you?" Yeah. Or somebody that assumes that I'm afraid of dogs. I'm walking down the street and somebody walk with their dog. I haven't flinched or nothing. They say, "Don't worry, he won't bite you." Anyway, so having a conversation with Mr. Fuller one day, I said, "Mr. Fuller, oh, I want to tell you about the one guy too." So in the middle of all this debating and stuff, and we're, you know, I'm learning some stuff about them that I thought that I thought was true, that I found out wasn't true. You know, like I said, I thought all white nationalists were racist. And you know, when you think about it, okay, when you form a definition of racism, and I'm gonna get to that, but anyway, I learned something about a lot of white nationalists, and started doing more research and saw that there's a whole bunch of them that, like I said, all they want to do is preserve the existence of white people. They don't want white people, you know, what they believe to be white people collectively, to die off. I don't have a problem with that. So, Mr. Fuller, I said to him, I said, "Mr. Fuller, what do you do when you come across someone, white or black, or white or non-white? What do you do when you come across someone who says that racism, white supremacy doesn't exist?" He said, oh, I just shut down my operation and move on to the next person. It was that simple. It was that simple. There are some people who want to force the code down your throat. They want to ram it down the throat. They don't care who you are. And question me because I don't. Because I have some associates. Now, I grew up with white people. I grew up with a whole lot of white people in Richmond, California. When I first moved to Richmond, that's what was there mostly in the part of Richmond that I moved to, Central. You know, most of the black people in Richmond was living in North Richmond and South Richmond is where you find most of the black people at. In Parchester Village in the 70s when I moved there. When on my block, on Hellings Avenue, 2204 Hellings Avenue, when I moved there, I was the only black child on the block. Oh, excuse me. It was, but I didn't, you know, when I first moved to Richmond, I was 4 years old. So I wasn't allowed to go past one house, Mr. Ellis, a very, you know, an old white man who was always kind to my family. Always. Now, mind you, he gets some alcohol in his system. He you know, he let the truth slip out sometimes. He'd be saying some of us are niggers. Oh, damn. He'd be saying some of us are N-words. But, you know, not all of us, you know. I remember when, you know, first, you know, my confusion, I'd be like, sticking my chest out. Yeah, we're the good ones, kind of thing. Okay. However, whatever that meant, Mr. Ellis was always kind to us. He had fruit trees galore. He had pear trees, apple trees, oranges, grapefruits, plums. He had a huge backyard and let me roam in it anytime I wanted to. All I had to do, I could just hop over the fence and go in his yard and just eat away all the fruit that was growing in the backyard. And I had such a great time at Mr. Ellis's house. Okay. He took me to the zoo. The first time I went to the zoo without my parents, I went to the first time I went to the San Francisco Zoo, I went to the zoo with him and his daughter. They took me to the zoo. I think I was maybe 6 years old at the time. You know? But my next door neighbors, the Sheltons, they were very kind to me. The Sheltons family, they were very kind to me. You know, on the whole neighborhood, the whole block, people were kind to me. Now there were some situations sometimes with the kids when, you know, I get the two kids across the street who, you know, told me that I was cursed because I was black. That didn't sit well with me. But I didn't look at it as racism. I didn't want to be black no more. You know, told me that my people used to be white. But that didn't sit well with me. But I didn't look at them and be like, oh, I hate you for telling me my people's cursed. I internalized it and took fault with it. Like, you know, God, look what God did to me. God, why did you do this to me? And then you read a book like Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, and he's talking about when he got out of slavery, and then you start figuring out that's how they kept the slaves by telling them that God cursed them and God made them to serve white people. And they believed it. That's how the majority of the slaves, that's why there wasn't a whole lot of rebellions. I know you think, you know, these days they want you to believe there was a whole lot of rebellions. There was a lot, but it wasn't enough to put no dent into nothing. So anyway, Up from Slavery. So another one is, you know, which is by Booker T. He says in the first chapter, I was born a slave on a plantation in Franklin County, Virginia. I am not quite sure of the exact place or the exact date of my birth, but at any rate, I suspect I must have been born somewhere and at some time. Now really I want you to think about that for a minute. Not knowing where you were born or what your birth date was. Today, knowing where you were born and your birth date, I mean, that means a lot to us today, don't it? Like me, I was born in Oakland, California, September 2nd, 1968. I'm a Virgo. That's supposed to mean something to me, right? What does it mean to you? And what did it mean to Booker T. Washington not to know? As nearly as I have been able to learn, I was born near a crossroads post office called Hales Ford, and the year was 1858 or 1859. I do not know the month or the day. The earliest impressions I can now recall are of the plantation and the slave quarters, the latter being the part of the plantation where the slaves had their cabins. My life had its beginning in the midst of the most miserable, desolate, and discouraging surroundings. This was so, however, not because my owners were especially cruel, for they were not, as compared with many others. I was born in a typical log cabin about 14 by 15 feet square. In this cabin, I lived with my mother and a brother and sister till after the Civil War, when we were all declared free. Of my ancestry, I know almost nothing. In the slave quarters and even later, I heard whispered conversations among the colored people of the tortures which the slaves, including, no doubt, my ancestors on my mother's side, suffered in the middle passage of the slave ship while being conveyed from Africa to America. I have been unsuccessful in securing any information that would throw any accurate light upon the history of my family beyond my mother. She, I remember, had a half brother and a half sister. In the days of slavery, not very much attention was given to family history and family records, that is, Black family records. My mother, I suppose, attracted the attention of a purchaser who was afterward my owner and hers. Her addition to the slave family attracted about as much attention as the purchase of a new horse or cow. Of my father, I know even less than of my mother. I do not even know his name. I have heard reports to the effect that he was a white man who lived on one of the nearby plantations. Whoever he was, I never heard of his taking the least interest in me or providing in any way for my rearing. But I do not find a special fault with him. He was simply another unfortunate victim of the institution which the nation unhappily had engrafted upon it at that time. Here's an ex-slave giving what? Grace and mercy to someone who probably raped his mother. I mean, if it wasn't rape, it still had to be something equivalent to child molestation, because his mother was a slave. She didn't have any choice in the matter. But Booker T saw no problem with it. Why? I just wanted to put that in there, put that out there. I'm not going to blast on because I'm using up the rest of my time. But, you know, Mr. Fuller was very impactful. And I hope that anyone listening today, I hope that some of what I said today could motivate you to go to producejustice.com and purchase his books. You know, Mr. Fuller has passed away now. He's dead. So, you know, and I no longer have the connection that I had with him. You know, we lost touch with each other before he passed on. So I don't make anything. You know, we came at a situation where someone told him I was being a fraud. And it made no damn sense, but they told him that I was duplicating his books and selling them, like cheating him out of the profits or something. So he went along with that. Well, you know, with what they said, I said that I was going to prove them wrong and was going through a whole bunch of other personal stuff. So I never proved them wrong. I proved PayPal wrong though, because I had this thing where people will come to my site, counter-racismnow.com, and purchase the code books from me. And I had a little PayPal button on there. And because of what she said, she was supposed to be a representative of Mr. Fuller or whatever, but because of what she told PayPal, they discontinued my button. They took my button off. So I had to prove to them. I sent copies of the receipts and the boxes that Mr. Fuller, you know, shipped the books to me in. You know, I sent them, you know, screenshots of that stuff, and they removed the block. Okay, but because I didn't prove it to Mr. Fuller, he refused to wholesale me any more books. He said until he worked out the matter that he needed to work out. And I just never got around to sending him that information. But before all of that happened, he told me about the word guide that was coming out, and she helped him put together the word guide. So when her and I was getting along, she sent me a copy of this, and well, you know, it wasn't for free. I paid for it, but she made sure that Mr. Fuller. Oh, I keep forgetting. Dang it. She made sure that Mr. Fuller autographed it for me. You can see it over there in the corner, right there. But, and you know, I was talking to Mr. Fuller. I say, Mr. Fuller, isn't that sort of like show-offism? He, you know, he laughed and said, yeah, in a way it is. But now that he's passed, I'm still glad that he autographed it for me. Now I have more information, more stories or whatever that I could give you about Mr. Fuller, but like I said, I'm running out of time that I had to pay. I had to pay for this live. So listen, all of you, may you have a great rest of your night. I know you got to prepare for the week. You know, doing what you got to do if you got to go to work. No matter who you are, whether you're white or non-white or racist white supremacist, you still got bills to pay. So thank you for listening. Good night.